Hello, whoa. That's a little too close for comfort. Sheesh, what am I doing here? There we go. Hello again. So, have you ever heard the phrase, arrogance of youth? How about ignorance is bliss, or too young to know any better? All of these phrases have a similar idea behind them, with inexperience at the forefront. Something that today's traveler, Scrundle, has learned the hard way. Well, him and his former traveling companions. Come along with me and let's find out what happened. Now, the tale as Scrundle tells it begins at a rowdy tavern known as the Meat Hook, where he sat with a group of friends sharing mugs of ale in celebration for their upcoming inaugural expedition and exploration of an abandoned dungeon in search of adventure, glory, and gold. Around this name-carved and beer-stained table we have a wizard, a cleric, a fighter, and Scrundle, a thief. Together, this small band of companions makes for a well-rounded group, save for the fact that none of them has any practical experience. Just a youthful thirst for exploration and challenges to prove their worth. Jumping ahead, we find our group deep within the underground ruins of the aforementioned dungeon. Days into the adventure, the crew is still in good spirits. They may not have found any treasure yet, but the few monsters they came across were quickly disposed of, and that seemed to be enough to keep their spirits up. On the 5th day of their spelunkering, they were trudging along a dark corridor when a small bit of light began to flicker at the end of the hallway. As they slowly approached the beacon, that tiny flicker grew into a glittering mass of warm, resplendent sparkles. A treasure chest sat in the room at the end of the hallway, with what appeared to be a healthy amount of gold and jewels, cascading a bouncy light reflected from a lonely torch hanging on the wall. In excited exasperation, the cleric sprinted forward to bask in their premature splendor. His party members grasped at air as they shouted for the fool to have patience. But it was too late. Not 2 footsteps into the room, the cleric sank waist deep and was then swallowed entirely. Within seconds, the shadowy silhouette of their friend was gone, with barely an audible scream or sound of trouble. It happened so fast. Shocked, horrified, and unbelieving, the rest of the party slowly approached the room with torches raised overhead. Standing upon the threshold, nothing could be seen of their friend, nor of any disturbance. They prodded the floor where he disappeared, but nothing was amiss. For all intents and purposes, the room appeared to be nothing special, save for the treasure and all manner of crates, barrels, chairs, and sacks. With weapons drawn, they tiptoed into the chamber. Avoiding the spot where the cleric disappeared, the fighter placed a heavy foot down to the right, and a barely audible click sounded within the floor. A sudden rattle and loud clang followed as a sturdy iron gate dropped into place behind them, sealing our trio inside. With a heavy sigh, Scrundle bent down to look at the floor where the fighter had placed his foot. Prying up the false tile, he observed a contraption and locking mechanism that was unfamiliar to him, but he set to work nonetheless to try and find a way to release the trapdoor that fell into place. His teammates, although still unnerved, felt obligated to make something of their trip, especially for their fallen friend, so they advanced on the captivating chest. Not seeing anything out of the ordinary, they began plunging their hands into the cold treasure, and filling their pockets, pouches, and sacks full to the brim. Meanwhile, Scrundle, sweating and confused at the mechanism, was about to tell them of his woes, when their frantic screams and grunts startled his awareness. The coins, jewels, pearls, and tokens were coming to life and swarming across his frantic friends like millions of tiny, glittering crabs. Mimics. Having fooled their prey, were now sinking their venomous teeth into every spot they could reach. Nasty little buggers. Feeling helpless for what he could do, Scrundle began working feverishly on the trap mechanism as he heard one of his companions drop. With a clatter of wood, he knew the wizard had succumbed to the venom of the monsters. He heard the creatures begin to scuttle his way as another thud sounded from behind. The fighter. With a hopeless last attempt, he ripped the entire trap out of the floor and a release sounded just above. The mimics were almost upon him. His friends were completely enveloped by the monsters, and without knowing what he should do, a sense of self-preservation washed over his body. He leaped for the gate, was now able to lift it from the released locks, and with one sorrowful look back, he ran for his life. A tragic tale indeed. One that Scrundle has learned greatly and regrettably from. Which is probably why he bonded so quickly with another of our fellow misfits here at the Gathering Stone. For Minnow, our feline delinquent, was very understanding of the mistakes of youth, and with it, a new friendship was born out of loss. That's it for this week, folks. I hope you enjoyed this tale of the lost. Thanks for watching, and be sure to come back next week for new characters, stories, and illustrations. Farewell for now.